Hello, Watch Voice Focus, a first pre-season defeat for the Reds as they lose 1-0 to Spanish second-tier side Elche after conceding from an early corner. A familiar pain, but it wasn't all doom and gloom with a couple of players really standing out. We'll discuss all that and touch on our favoured starting 11s as they stand in the company of, first of all, Pete Blackburn. Pete, good to have you with us. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Matt. Nice to be here. And I've learned a positive life lesson tonight, and that is be more Julian Bennett. Because if you can be as positive about everything that comes across your path as he was about tonight's friendly, then life is going to be an absolute doddle.
I absolutely love him. Someone messaged me saying I love how he switches between co-coms and calling the play. So as they say, he was absolutely great. I loved it. So yeah, well done, Jules. Second guest, good to have back with us, is Simon Fotheringham. Fothers, how are you?
Hi Matt, I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, the Outlaws won today in the One Day Cup, so all good on the cricket front. And the Trent Rockets are about to win as well, so all good.
Good stuff. Kick us off, Fothers. Just general thoughts on the game, what you made of it. Obviously, the results pretty irrelevant, but what did you make of what we saw in general?
Yeah, pre-season friendlies are strange ones, aren't they? Because the result doesn't matter. I was looking at a few comments at half-time on Twitter, and they were saying, "Get us a goal, please. Get us a goal." It doesn't really matter, does it? It's about looking at what we've got, where we're at, and I think for me, for the third season in the Premier League, we're looking a lot further ahead than we have been at similar places over the last two seasons. I was just saying to Pete before we came on, I don't understand this two completely different teams in each half. If somebody can explain to me why we're not sort of integrating some of the players from the second half into that first half team to see how they can gel, I don't get. Elche clearly were making substitutions as the game went on. I understand as well how hot it is out there, and that he doesn't really want to play more than 45 minutes. But I think there's a lot of positives. There's a couple of negatives as well, like strikers, which I'm sure, or lack of, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit. But on the whole, I think we're ahead of the game at the moment.
Yeah, lack of strikers was really highlighted in both halves, Pete, with the team selection. First half, we went with no strikers. It felt like Ilanga and Hudson-Odoi started very narrow, and then Callum went wider, and it got a little bit better. What did you make of that first half team then? And does it establish that we have to play with a striker, whoever it is?
Well, I guess the team was a bit of a means to an end, in the fact that we didn't have someone who was fit to start in that role up front, who's likely to play a role in the squad. The first team squad. There are a couple of guys in that second half who potentially could play that role, but I don't think they're going to be here come the start of the season, or the club are certainly going to be trying to move them on. And if we start the season as we are now squad-wise, then I think the reality is that Gibbs White will probably have to play in that sort of dropping deep role with the split strikers. But I guess that does illustrate the point that there's a bit of a lack of depth in the area, and we're probably going to have to do a bit of work there. I mean, I think from the whispers we hear, it's likely the club are going to be trying to recruit in those areas. So this may all become a bit of a moot conversation by that point. I mean, I thought in general the first half wasn't bad. I missed the goal because everything was an absolute mess. And then for the rest of the half, it felt like I had about 600 pints because there was 4 players on the ball every time I looked at the screen. It was just an incredible stream. So sort of slightly hard to be too specific in my analysis, but I thought we played okay. I thought it looked like we were trying to control the game, and we were playing with the sort of intent that we played in the last game. And from what I hear, the games previously, which is that's all positive, isn't it? I mean, one of the big criticisms I guess I've had about Forest in recent years is we've just really struggled when the onus has been on us to have the ball and to try and dominate possession and make things happen, I guess. And it looks like we're starting to sort of address that. So I think there is a positive there. I'm not too sure what else to say about it, really, because, I mean, we created sort of moments, but there wasn't really any massive chances. And I think that's probably largely because there wasn't someone there dragging the defence about, threatening to run in behind, or being a real threat in the box when players got into positions to put a cross in. I remember seeing, there's a couple of times Nico was down the right-hand side and was trying to pick something out, but there was never really anything there, was there? And I guess that's what your question's hinting at, is I think we really do need that sort of focal point, and we've got it in spades when the two lads are fit, Taiwo and Chris Wood. But without them, yeah, there is a bit of a problem there, and I think it's likely that we're going to be without one or both of them for points of the season, given their records. So probably a bit of work to do there.
Yeah, Wood didn't train yesterday, and Taiwo, I assume they're just managing his minutes because he's not featured yet. So that's a concern that he didn't get any minutes tonight. We've got 2 friendlies left, so he really needs to get on the pitch, obviously. And like Pete says, I think the only thing we created in open play in the first half was Nico's header from Hudson-Odoi, unless I'm wrong. It was kind of a story of set pieces at both ends, Fothers, I thought. The negative, obviously, was our goal conceded. Murillo got done for the first contact, which is a familiar thing, and it shows we've still got work to do and we can't get too carried away, I guess.
Yeah, it was a great strike, though, wasn't it? You know, it was one of those where, I mean, it could have gone anywhere. The boys hit it straight into the top corner. So I wouldn't read too much in that. They clearly know there's work to be done. I mean, 24 or 25 goals conceded from set pieces last year just wasn't good enough, and they'll know that. But on the positive side from set pieces, I thought Elanga, some of his balls into the box today were excellent. I thought the corners were better. I think Gibbs-White, when he's not taking the corners and he actually looks like he might get on the end of them, looks a real threat. So yeah, I think let's look at the positives from that rather than dwelling again on defending set pieces, because they know that the work has to be done on that, and I'm convinced that will get better.
I don't think you could blame Sells or the goal. It was, for people who haven't seen it, it was a great strike. He smashed it in from 18 yards. Like I say, it's a shame we lost the first contact, but we have made strides in recruitment in that area, so nothing to panic about. The set pieces were interesting, Pete, because as Fodder says, Elanga put good balls in. Second half, Dominguez put good balls in, and it does kind of make it pretty clear to me that with Morgan being a really good threat in the box, as Simon says, one of those 2 lads, or Hudson-Odoi, probably should be on corners this season.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I mean, we've got options there, haven't we? Which is nice to see. I mean, not corner specifically, but there was a nice video that the club account put out this week, I think, with Dominguez whipping in a couple of nice free kicks as well. So that was lovely to see. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Gibbs-White is clearly a big threat in the box. We saw that at the end of last season as well, and we've seen it in pre-season now. And I guess that sort of makes the decision for you when you consider that there's that element of threat, and there's also people who can take set pieces and potentially be as effective or more effective than he had been. So, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer, to be honest.
Good to have 275 people with us. Do us a favour and hit like on the stream if you haven't already. Myself and Pete exchanged a few messages in the first half for us, talking about Anderson, how we liked his kind of progressive passing. Was he the pick of the bunch in the first half for you, or did anyone else stand out?
I thought I'm just looking at the lineup from the first half. I thought Anderson looked really good, actually. I think it's the first time I've seen him, and I thought he linked the play up really well. There were a couple of bits where he made a couple of really good interceptions. I really like Hudson-Odoi. I think he's looking lean and fit and really up for it as well. Gibbs-White for me is a must. But yeah, I thought those 3 were the pick for me in the first half, I thought.
The people in the comments put in if you think Anderson's going to be in your starting 11, and then we'll come to our starting 11s at the end of the season and see if people can still get him in, because it is an interesting debate. But it feels like he's playing his way in, certainly, as Patrick says. Do we start with Sangare and Anderson? And we'll probably come back to that. But Sangare was really good. Second half. Oh, the other thing I know in the first half was that I thought the ref was really fussy. It was like they changed the ref at half time. I assume they didn't, but second half he's playing advantages and much better. But so many yellow cards first half and niggly fouls. But second half was better.
We wouldn't have known if they changed them, to be fair, because you wouldn't have been able to tell on the stream anyway. Could have been a totally different guy.
Maybe there were 2 refs or 4.
You wonder whether somebody said something to him at half time about it only just being a friendly. Don't you? You know, I mean, some of the decisions he was given in the first half was like it was the Champions League final, and it's like just let the play flow. It's a pre-season friendly. It doesn't really, nothing really matters, does it? Other than when Millwall go into tackles like like they did the other night, Matt. I know that upset you a lot.
Triggered. I was going to say, maybe he saw the Millwall footage and thought, I need to get hold of this just in case.
maybe.
Matt,
Millwall fans are still loving me. Sorry, Pete.
I just got on Anderson. I think it's a good talking point, because I thought when he played a very different role tonight in the first half, we've had lots of conversations on the pod, and I'm sure we all have with our mates about what Anderson might be and the sort of position he might play and such like. And it seems like he can play a few roles, which is a great benefit for us as a football club. Obviously, he started tonight playing a sort of deeper role alongside Yates in the middle of the park. I just thought he was absolutely fantastic. He's clearly got a real football brain, a real intelligence about him, because he slots back from playing in what was a pretty offensive sort of left-sided position, drifting in last time out, playing in that quite disciplined deep role. And the way he just sort of, I mean, no, it's not a sort of massively competitive game with huge pressure on him, but I thought he just strolled it, and he didn't look like a player who was sort of marching out of position and was going to give you issues. I thought it really filled me with confidence about what he'll be able to offer in, I guess, a number of roles.
I did like him. I like his just intelligence on the ball, and he can play, like Pete said, lots of different roles. He can play from the left. He can play as a 10. Maybe he could play as a false 9. I don't want to see him there yet, but he offers us something different. Sci-Fi Monkey still says we need Danilo or Dominguez in the team, which is very fair. And Richard Spray says about Danilo as well, whether he's going to threaten that place. I think he might. It's a really good choice for Nuno, which is a good thing, certainly. So, hang on. Before we go into the second half, Fothers can do extra work for us. Do the Trent Nav advert for us, Simon Fotheringham, since you are the pre-match host.
Yeah, there you go. Well, this has not been confirmed yet, so I'm hoping this is. I'm hoping this is fairly current, because I've not had the conversation with them. But yeah, match day experience, as you can see there on the screen in the big shed. We do head-to-head football quizzes. We do the team news. We have the pre-match game on the big screen. The pre-game, the early kickoff on the big screen as well. It's great fun, fantastic atmosphere. Get yourselves down for the Bournemouth game.
Absolutely. Get yourself down for the Bournemouth game. Well done.
Are these some quite high-powered contract negotiations that you're still in, Fothers?
Absolutely, yeah. We've not negotiated where we're going after last season yet.
We do discuss a lot of recruitment stuff on this podcast, so just continuing the theme. The Trent Nav will do good business, I'm sure. He's not a
South American wonder kid.
Yeah, change your name and then make it something Latin, Fothers, and then you'll definitely keep the role. Right. Second half, I did write in my notes it was hard to judge with the front three because Bowler, Hwang and Dennis are going to be nowhere near the team, I imagine. I mean, I actually thought they did better than, not that's insulting, don't say better than I expected. They did okay for the team, but they weren't. They're not going to get in the team. They're not on the level of Wood or Taiwo, so it was harder to judge the players behind them. But some did really stand out. What did you make of the second half, Fothers?
I've always thought and always said that there's a player in Sangare, and for the first time tonight, I think I saw it for the first time tonight. I thought he was excellent. He looks lean. I can't stop thinking back to Fulham away last year, and when Steve Cooper took him off at half time when we were 3 or 4-0 down, absolutely awful. I thought we'd never see him again. But he's come back from that, and he looks like he's got a pre-season behind him or almost behind him. And I think he was the pick. I've always liked Nico Dominguez as well. I thought he was really good tonight. Interestingly, I've not got him in my team that we're going to talk about in a bit, but I think he's a good one to be in and around the squad. I thought he was excellent. Omar Richards I saw for the first time tonight, and he looked sharp and had a chance as well, didn't he, towards the end? They would probably be my pick. And maybe Toffolo. I've got a bit of a soft spot for Toff as well. But certainly, if you wanted me to pick one from it, then certainly Sangare looked pretty good tonight, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll drill down into a couple more of those names. John asks, do we still expect Dennis, Swang, Bowler and Joe Worrell to leave? if they can find takers, I think they probably will. I wonder if Joe might stay because they don't need to sell him, and they're short of depth at centre back, perhaps. Although Abbott's done well in pre-season, but I'm sure they'd sell the others if they can. I think Bowler's probably going to go on loan in the next week or so. But also, just a quick thank you as well to Andrew. Is that Critch? If I've pronounced that wrong, Andrew, then apologies. But thanks for signing up as a member. Very good of you. I've just seen that comment from Boynesy at the bottom. Moving on. Sangare was the story. I thought, like Father said, Pete, if you had to pick out one player, I thought that Sangare looks lean and hungry and confident again.
Definitely. I thought both Sangare and Dominguez were sharp and sort of what I expected, having seen a bit of them this pre-season and looking at the players around them. I thought they'd stand out. But it is nice to see Sangare constantly putting in those sorts of performances now. And I guess I know we can't get ahead of ourselves because clearly this is not the sort of same level as we're going to be playing in the Premier League. But it's all we've got, and it's all we can judge him on. And I think it's clear that he's looking like a much more confident, much sharper footballer. And we've talked endless times about him, and I've spoken at length about why I think it's probably reasonable to give him a bit of leeway and give the lad a bit of time to settle in, given everything that he's gone through and coming to a club that's just lacks general stability, but looks in a really different place at the moment this summer. So I think it's really positive to see the way he's performing. I mean, I think it's poles apart from what we've seen from him previously, to be honest. I mean, he's not been tested massively in the sort of ball-winning side of the game, I guess, because we've generally been dominating possession. But you've seen him nipping in and nicking the ball and then using it well. But when he's had the ball, he's wriggling in and out of tight spaces. He's finding good passes, and he's doing it all with real tempo and intent. And I think that really matters. So it's good to see, and he does feel like a slightly different player. So yeah, I'm really positive about it, and I mean he'll be straight in my team at the end of the show. So I guess that says where we are with him. I'm feeling really good about it.
Yeah, he and Dominguez do seem to have a good understanding. Dominguez looked bright as well. Charlotte asks where Danilo was. I don't know, Charlotte. Sorry, I wonder if he was injured or just been managed. But he's looked really bright as well. A few others to players to discuss. We mentioned Carlos Miguel Fothers. Poor bloke, he's had almost nothing to do to stake his claim, really. He had one save tonight, which he dealt with well, which you'd expect him to make. Have you got any read or opinion on the first choice keeper yet, or is that still very much up in the air for you?
I was at the test match last week, obviously at Trent Bridge, and the Arsenal goalkeeper, what's his name? Ramsdale was there. Just forgot his name for a second. And for a minute, I just thought
Southgate, I think.
Yeah, I just thought let's hope he's here because he's he's just on his way to Forest to sign a contract. But I guess that tells you where my head is with the goalkeepers. Sells as an improvement on Turner. Miguel, I don't know. I haven't seen him. He got down well tonight. He's a big lad. He's obviously going to hopefully boss the area at 6'8". But I don't know. I think it's still an area. If we could bring two players in, for me, it would be another goalkeeper. And I know that's ridiculous when we've got three, but I'd bring a better goalkeeper in than all of them. And I say that because I've only seen Miguel play for 45 minutes against the Spanish second division side tonight. And I'd bring a striker in. So I'm probably not the best person to answer that question, to be honest, Matt, because I'm not a huge fan of Matt Sells. I think he massively improved us from where Matt Turner was. I still think there's room for improvement in that area, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Miguel might be the answer. It's just too early to say. But he seems to have, obviously, they've seen something in him. He's probably got the raw materials. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see these next two games, who gets the minutes. I wondered if they put Miguel in the second half in the weaker team, see if he'd get more shots against him. But he only got the one. And we just dominated the game, really. So, yeah, tough to say. What the wing backs are the ones I wanted to discuss, Pete. I think Nico had a pretty rocky couple of games, but he looked good. And Moreira was trying to stake his claim, probably one of his best. So what did you make of Moreira? And interestingly, what did you make of Richards as well? Because he's kind of pushing his name further forwards.
I mean, with Richards, I'm keen just to not really put any pressure on him. This is the first time I've seen him this pre-season, and I know someone went to Chesterfield and saw that game and saw him play there. No, it wasn't Chesterfield, was it? Sorry, it was. What was the game where he scored his lovely goal? Was that Sunderland?
Sunderland, yeah.
Sunderland, yeah. Sorry. So I didn't see that game, so I haven't got a great deal to judge him on. I mean, for me, it's just really nice to see him playing football. It's another 45 minutes that he's got through. I mean, they mentioned on commentary that he made a couple of fairly dynamic sprints and such like. I think they were maybe sort of overpraising people a little bit, given that there was not much to talk about. But it was really good to see. And if he can have a few more halves, or well, in the games we've got remaining, if he can play a part again, it's really promising, isn't it? I think he's going to take time, and we're going to have to just like cut him some slack and give him a break. We'll get to the end of pre-season, and he'll either be able to be one of our sort of 4 or 5 fullback options, or he'll have to go on loan somewhere else, and he might still be able to come back and play a part again. So I'm sort of keen not to pile any pressure on. I think it's absolutely ideal for the football club if he can be essentially a free option for us now, because we've obviously already got him in the building. And he's clearly a player with like the athletic ability to make an impact, and I think we probably need that in those fullback positions. So it would be brilliant if he could come good, but I don't want to put any pressure on it. I'm just glad to see him playing football in a Forest shirt, because when we signed him, I was really pleased with it. I thought it was a good deal and the sort of deal we should be doing. And it's I was say it's unfortunate. It's pretty crazy how it's worked out for the guy. So just fingers crossed on it. I mean, I thought Nico had a good, solid game first half. Nothing to really criticise him about him. I know the previous game there were a couple of moments where he was maybe slightly caught out. I'm a bit biased as president of the Nico fan club, but I thought it was a good run out from him. Dangerous in attacking moments. Probably not quite on it with his sort of final ball. I think that's still something that you can work on. I mean, the sort of narrative with Nico has been he's a really good attacking wing back, but he had these issues defensively. I don't know if that narrative's really correct, and he hasn't played out certainly in the last sort of year or so. He's been brilliant defensively, and his defensive metrics are absolutely first class. I think he can probably still build on that game in the final third a little bit and be a little bit more precise and a little bit more dangerous. And if he can add that to the sort of defensive game he's built now, then he could be a real massive asset for us. But I think we've got good options in those positions. Depending on how it goes for Richards, then there may be a question of recruiting further, perhaps one more fullback. But I like what we're seeing, to be honest. And Williams one side, Aina the other looks like a great place to be starting from for me. Moreira coming on didn't have the sort of, he was pretty quiet, I guess, tonight. Wouldn't judge him for that, but has generally looked really impressive and has just settled at this level with absolute ease, which is really remarkable, I think, for a guy of his age and experience. So I think we're in a good place.
Good to have Chris Aylmer in the comments, I see, who's often on here. So good evening, Chris, and everyone else who's with us. 340 people with us. So like I said, do us a favour and hit like. Well, in terms of match action, there are only a couple of other bits. Huang hit the post, decent effort, but like I say, he's not going to play, so I don't think we need to talk about it too much. There was a good penalty appeal, which I thought was possibly a handball, but there was four defenders sliding, so I couldn't really be sure. And then we had a late chance on Bamidele's header, which he probably should have connected with. That probably sweeps up the game. So I want to move on to a couple of extra points. We'll talk about our first 11. I'll ask the chaps about Murillo's interview in the Telegraph today. If either of you haven't read it, don't worry. So I'll read the main quote out about his desire to stay. So we'll touch on that. So if people want to drop in their first choice 11s, and I'll put a few up on the screen, but I'll ask the chaps and I'll throw one in for myself as well. Putting you on the spot then, Pete, if we were playing Bournemouth tomorrow, what would your 11 be?
Yeah, I mean, I'll caveat this with a few things. Firstly, I think there's genuine competition in a few areas, which I think is really exciting. Secondly, I'm putting Sells in goal because I just haven't seen Miguel play, and I think it would be sort of perplexing for me to just stick him in there, having absolutely no idea of what he's capable of. So my teams, I don't know if people were watching a previous podcast this week, you put up a sort of a 4-3-2-1, 4-3-3 sort of asymmetric formation, which is sort of what I'm looking at. So it's Sells in goal, Nico right back, Aina left back, Murillo and Milenkovic in the middle. And then I'm going Anderson, Sangare and Danilo, a sort of three-man central midfield. And then Gibbs White, Wood, and Callum Hudson-Odoi is your sort of three attacking players, but with Gibbs White tucked in a little bit, and Hudson-Odoi keeping width on the left-hand side. It's tough because I feel bad in a couple of senses. One, leaving Elanga on the bench, and the other one, Dominguez, who I think is just a really talented footballer, and I'm sort of desperate to see him break into the side. But I think there's a lovely blend in Anderson, Sangare, and Danilo. I love the way that they're all playing in pre-season. I'm trying to fit in as many of the players in a good blend as I possibly can. And for me, playing four at the back is, I mean, I'm sure there are people much more tactically astute than me who know why playing three at the back is a better idea for us. But for me, playing four at the back right now is a no-brainer because our strengths are elsewhere in the pitch as far as I'm concerned, and we need to find the right blend to fit as many of them as possible. I'm struggling to get Elanga in the team as things stand, but the good part of that is that he is a phenomenal option off the bench. And, this is just one starting lineup, and there's plenty of time to prove me wrong and change it. So I'm hopeful that Elanga and Dominguez in particular can break into that, but that's what I'm looking at the moment.
Yeah, still 2 games to go. If we do this conversation after someone's had a stormer against Villarreal or Olympiacos, it might well change. Just run us through the 11 names again, Pete. Sorry if people missed it.
Sells in goal, Nico and Aina fullbacks, Milenkovic and Murillo centre half. I'm going 3-man midfield of Anderson, Sangare, and Danilo, and then Gibbs White, Wood, and Hudson-Odoi. So front three, but Gibbs White tucked in, and Hudson-Odoi keeping the width out left.
Good stuff. What about you, Fothers?
Yeah, well, I was just looking as Pete just read the team out there. For me, so I've written 8 names down who are a must for me, and that's the same back four as Pete's gone for. So Sells in goal, despite everything that I've just said about needing another goalkeeper, because I haven't seen enough of Miguel. So for the same reason as Pete. So Sells in goal, back four exactly the same: Williams, Murillo, Milenkovic, and Aina, who I thought was great again tonight. Aina probably not as good as he was towards the end of last season, but no doubt that'll come. My next 3, which make up the 8 that I think have to play, probably slightly different to Pete. They're in Pete's team, but slightly different is Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs White, and Wood would be my next 3 that I would write down. And the reason that I've only got those 8 is because I've then got 5 other names to make up the remaining 3 positions. And 3 of them are the 3 that Pete mentioned, which were Anderson, Sangare, and Danilo. So if I go with that, we've got exactly the same 11. But I've also got Elanga and Yates written down. And the reason I've got Yates written down is because we all know Ryan's not quite as good a footballer, I think, is the nice way of putting it, as some of the others. But what Yates brings to the team is something that none of the others do, and that's the passion and the desire to play and do what he does for Forest week in, week out. And Elanga just has something. He just has something that we've seen in glimpses, and I would love to see those glimpses become more regular. And I think if they were more regular, then Man United wouldn't have sold him into us. But because they're not, it means that he probably doesn't make my starting 11 either. So you're going to push me for my 11?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the question.
Sells, Williams, Murillo, Milenkovic, Aina, Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs White, Wood, Anderson, Sangare, and Danilo, which I think is the same 11. But I really want Yates and Elanga to be good enough to be in that 11.
Yeah. Very good.
I would like What I would like to say, Matt, just before you move on, is that I think from watching the guys that we've not mentioned in those 11 in that second half today, and players like Willy Bolly, and Omabamidele and Moreira and Richards, we've got a real strength in depth that I think we haven't had, because you look at some of the players that could come into that 11 and you wouldn't worry about them playing in the Premier League.
Good. I'll do mine. I don't tell people what to say in the comments. I don't ban people, but there's been a few pretty rude comments in the chat tonight, so I think people should cut that out. And I'm sure they know what I'm talking about. My 11 would be I'd probably go Sells in goal until I see more of Miguel. The same back four as everyone else. So Nico, Milenkovic, Murillo, and Aina. I really want to get Anderson in the team, but I like the pace in attack of that front four that we had. So I would go Sangare, definitely, who's like a new signing. And then I would probably still go with Danilo, who's looked good in pre-season but didn't feature tonight. And then Gibbs-White 10, Hudson-Odoi 11, absolutely nailed. I would go Chris Wood in attack at the moment because we haven't seen enough of Aina. And I would play Elanga out wide. This is a home game against Bournemouth, I'm thinking of, first game of the season. If we were away at Man City, then I'd have a back three, but that kind of qualifies what we've seen in pre-season thus far. Right, thanks to people who dropped their teams in. People were kind of dropping them in back to front, and they were, I'll try and find a couple. Is this one in order? There's one here from Tony, but I think you've got Dominguez in goal, Tony, unless I'm missing it. But people generally followed the same theme as us. Here's another one from Thomas. A 1 year fit. Yeah, it's tough. He needs to get minutes, doesn't he, Fothers, really? In the next, he's got to play. Does he have to play 90 or 60 minutes in one of these two games to be even remotely considered for a start?
Sorry, who was that, Matt? Sorry, I was just reading the Taiwo. Yeah, I mean, we've all gone for Wood, haven't we? Because Wood's you would hope, be fitter for longer. Taiwo just brings something, doesn't he? I mean, the way he ruffled up the Liverpool defenders when he was fit, didn't know much about them, but he puts himself in those positions. And Taiwo's got something that's just a little bit different to, I think, any other striker in the Premier League. But unfortunately, how can you go into a season with a striker who's missed more games than he's played in the last two seasons, and he's always looks like it takes him 2 or 3 games to get up to speed? We've got to do something about the striker situation. But if he's fit, like Thomas has put in his team, if he's fit, he probably starts every week, doesn't he? At the moment,
yeah, if he's fit. Yeah, if he's fit. Yeah, I think so. Here's another one from Coxie. I think this is the same as my one. Yeah, I think that's the same. Although the goalkeeper's still up in the air for me. I do like 4 at the back if we're at home and being positive. And there were a couple of people made the good point. Mark made it as well. I saw Mark Douglas, I think it was, about having depth, basically leaving. If we're losing the game, then we're going to be bringing on Danilo or Anderson or Elanga to change matches, or Taiwo or Wood. So we're in a much better place, certainly. Right. Just the last thing I want to touch on before we finish is Murillo's comments in the Telegraph today, because they're interesting. They're interesting for a couple of reasons about him, the timing of the interview, because it comes off the back of him effectively saying he'd very much love to play for Manchester City in that interview in South American media. He sat down with John Percy in the Telegraph and expressed his desire to stay at Forest for at least 1 more year. I'll just read out the key quote and we'll have a quick chat about what it means. I need regular game time and really feel that with Forest, I'm in the best place for my career. Staying here for another season will enable me to mature as a player and eventually become better prepared if the chance ever comes to play at another level one day. Of course, I want to play eventually in the Champions League. When I grew up, I play video games and play with all those teams. Whenever I hear that classic music before games, it moves me, and it would be a dream playing that competition. But I'm focusing on my work here 100% and just want to do my best. Forest is a massive club in its own right, and I feel good here. Any thoughts on that, Pete? Is it a PR thing? Does it change your opinion at all? I mean, it doesn't for me. I think he would still do his best, no matter what he said in any interviews.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I'd say is, excuse me for taking the opportunity to give you a bit of a plug here, but become a member, and you can hear Mikey talk about this in great depth today. And I thought he spoke really well about it. I think my overwhelming feeling is that it's an absolute privilege to watch Murillo play football for Nottingham Forest. And if we get another season of that, for me, that is a massive, massive plus, because I didn't expect it. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought we'd have to sell him to meet PSR, and I thought we'd probably have to sell him for lower than he was worth because, ultimately he's only played a season in England, and we all sort of know his value, but it's a big ask for another club to be spending 60 plus, 70 plus million pounds on him at this point in his career. I think he's probably worth that sort of money in the long run, without a doubt. He's a huge talent, and I think it is a genuine privilege to see him play for our football club. So if the season comes round and we get that, the window closes and we get to see him in our team, I mean, it makes our starting 11s that we just discussed look an awful lot stronger, and it makes them look very different as well, because we were talking about Forest sort of progressing into being the sort of team that maybe tries to take control of games a little bit more, and there's a bit more intent and a little bit more domination of the ball, and just a bit more sort of tempo, and I think he really changes that for us because he's just so capable with the football. He also gives us that phenomenal ability to recover if people get in behind us, which is a massive part of us being able to push up the pitch and dominate as well. So for me, if he's still here, I'm still going to be surprised because I've prepared myself for the worst for a long time now. I sort of presumed it wasn't going to happen. And, in life in general, I like to prepare myself for the worst so I don't get hurt too much. And I've done that here. So if he sticks around, I'm going to be absolutely delighted. And even if it's just half the season, then let's just enjoy it, because honestly, this guy could go on to do anything in the game, I think. And one day soon we'll be watching and saying, he played for us, and people won't believe that. So it's an absolute privilege. The rest of it, I'm not too bothered about all the sort of PR stuff. I think it's pretty clear what's happened here is that he's had a brilliant season with Forest. His agent, no doubt wants to move, and he wants to move because everyone does. Everyone wants to better themselves and earn more and play at a higher level and play in the biggest competitions, all that sort of stuff. Totally understandable. There's a way of going about that, and sometimes perhaps it's not perfect the way players do it, but I think we can be very critical about all this sort of stuff. We don't really look at what we do in our own lives around moving jobs and all sorts, do we? But these guys are just right in the fishbowl, and we're all staring at them. So I'm not too worried about that sort of stuff, but it looks like probably the sort of offers that we need to move him on haven't materialised because the football club have managed to do the business before the end of June. So it's not been an imperative to sell him, and now we're in a slightly stronger position. I mean, I'm sure the threat of PSR and the future financial rules still hang over the football club, and at some point he's probably likely to be one of those players that goes in order to satisfy those rules. But as things stand, we're in a better position. And we're in a position where we can probably dictate a little bit more. Hopefully, we can see him play more for the football club. If not, I think he'll go for a really striking amount of money. And either way, it's going to be a real benefit. So kudos to everyone who brought him in. Kudos to the lad for knuckling down and having a great season and settling so quickly. And let's just hope we get a bit more of him because, as I say, repeat it again, but it's just an absolute privilege to watch the lad play football.
What do you think about it, Fothers? Because one more year of Murillo, especially with a settled defensive partner in Milenkovic, I assume, because he had so many different partners last year. He was coming from South America. Now he's had a pre-season. He's just got married. I know managers do buy into that as being an influence on players as well. It all feels like it's set up for us to get one more good year out of him if we can keep him into September.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the job the club have done, like Pete said, to keep him in PSR, because we all thought it was going to be Murillo or Gibbs White. I mean, we were, this podcast talked about it most of towards the end of last season and through the summer. So to be able to keep him, and let's look at it. If he is still with us in 12 months' time, his value is only going to go one way. And again, like Pete said, we can enjoy watching him for another season playing the football. Even tonight, that run he did tonight when he had the shot at the end of it. I think the commentator said his first goal is going to be an absolute worldie. I'd like to see him just knock one in off his arse from a corner, and then the goals will probably flow. And I know he's not in the side to score goals, but just the left foot and the pinging of the passes. You just want to keep those players, but unfortunately, Forest are a club where we've seen it in the past where the players will move on to bigger clubs, if you like. But ultimately, like Mr. Marinakis wants, get us into Europe, and then who knows, he might be happy to stay. But I think, like Pete said, everybody has ambitions to play at the highest level. Murillo's no different to that. And whatever happens, wherever he goes in the future, I'm just going to have great pleasure watching him wherever, unless he goes to Derby. You're going to have great pleasure watching him play wherever he goes, aren't you? And let's be honest, he's not going there.
That'd be some turnaround, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, they're losing 4-0 to Chesterfield, this week. So yeah, it would be certainly. I see Davies going beyond the illusions, comment in the thing about Marinakis wants. Our thinking's old because Marinakis wants to keep him, and I know he does, but there's still market forces at play. We're not going to keep. If a player has a blinding season and a top 4 club comes in for them, and we've just finished 14th in the Premier League, a la Elise at Crystal Palace, and we're going to sell them because that's the reality of the situation. But I still think it's great that we've got him here at the moment, and hopefully he's here for the rest of the coming season, and then you review it. But I think we'll do very well to keep him for more than one more season, because you go all the way back to Roy Keane and Stan Collymore and players like that. That's football, and we want to climb the football chain. We want to climb the food chain, and we're climbing it pretty reasonably and pretty quickly at the moment. But there's still the realities of the situation. If Liverpool want to buy him as to partner Van Dijk in this summer, then I suspect we'll do well to keep him. So I'm very happy with everything that we've done this summer, and we are doing. It looks like Sosa might well sign. We'll see. But as the chaps have said, I guess a striker is an absolute must if we can't keep these 2 lads fit. And I think we probably got a bit lucky last season that one of them was fit all the time. So we probably do need someone. Any final thoughts, chaps, before we go? And also anything you want to plug? Any other business, starting with Fothers?
No, I'm looking forward to seeing them play at the City Ground next Friday night. I'm sure there's going to be a decent crowd. I think some of the stadium's not open because there's still some building work going on, but really looking forward to seeing the Villarreal game on Friday night. And a couple of nights before that, if anybody's interested, the Trent Rockets have got their first home game at Trent Bridge. So come along, tickets still available for that one, the 100 next Wednesday night.
Very good, very good. Pete, anything from you before we go?
No, nothing to plug for me. I'll just say, just to the Trent Nav, pay the lad what he's worth. Come on, give Fothers that massive contract. It's time for both sides to come together and secure the future of Fothers at the Trent Nav.
Yeah, 3-year deal. They can some nice filming around the Nav at night. Some super fashionable music as well. Yeah, Fothers, and a big announcement social media campaign.
That's where I went wrong, Matt, when I think I got a little bit like Alex Hale's T20 contract. I got the last 8 games. What I should have done is built in 2 or 3 years beyond that. But negotiations are ongoing, and we'll get that sorted.
Hopefully so. Hopefully so. Just before we go, do us a favour, like I've said repeatedly. I know I keep saying it, but it does help if people stick a like on this video. It makes a big difference. And you can become a member and join us for members streams, as Pete referenced. If you become a top, this sounds really really bad. A top tier member sounds really cheesy, but you can get member streams for that anyway. And we've got a member social for all members next Thursday at the said Nav. Which I think Pete's coming to. And Fothers, you're very welcome to join us as well. 7 p.m. next Thursday for members. Right. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, I did have one thing and I almost forgot it. Sorry. Ruby Naylor of this parish put it on Twitter earlier about her dad being in hospital for a couple of weeks after I think he got burned. Yeah, it sounds pretty nasty, but she says he'll be okay, which is good news. Ruby's dad's name is James. I almost said John, then I was padding relentlessly there on to check her WhatsApp. Yes, James Naylor on the other side of the world in America. Do get well soon. I'm all thinking of you if you're stuck in hospital for a couple of weeks. Right, we shall be back on Monday afternoon about 3 p.m. is the plan, with Lewis and Temps to talk through any news from the weekend, just the way things are shaping up. I'll be interested to hear Lewis's 11, especially around midfield as well. I know we talked about that a lot, but I think it's interesting. So we'll probably go into that a little bit more. Fothers, good to have you back with us. Thank you very much for tonight.
Thanks for the invite, Matt. No
problem at all. I don't know, before I thank Pete, if I'm going to buy my missus a pizza and a glass of wine, but she's very patient, as I'm sure all our wives are. Keep us in good books. So
mine's drinking wine as we speak. So
you don't need to buy her another bottle then, do you?
She's all right.
Pete Blackburn, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and all the very best to James from me as well.
Good stuff. Yeah, all the best, James. Right, good to have so many people with us pretty late on a Friday night after a pretty inconsequential defeat in the pre-season. But like we said, Sangare really good, Anderson good, and interesting to see how it all develops. Lots to take from it. Let's all be as happy as Julian Bennett in life. That was one of my highlights of tonight for those who watched along. A lovely guy. Right, have a good evening, everyone. If we don't see you on Monday, then hopefully we shall see you soon.